All right, welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, bringing you brand new interviews right here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you become a member, Patreon, all those cool things in the description. I'm excited to have Jyrki 69 of the band The 69 Eyes today. If you're not familiar, I'm surprised because if you're tuning in, you probably are. But if you're not, their music is described by many as goth and roll, combination of rock and goth. And if you're a fan of Typo Negative, or you're a fan of the Cult, or the Misfits, or Elvis, this is probably right up your alley. They're on their 13th studio album. It's called Death of Darkness, available April 21st, and the link is in the description if you want to check it out. Now they've got all kinds of cool physical copies as well. So when you do these kind of interviews, these people, these guests, they're on junket tours or press tours, and they pretty much do an interview every 30 minutes all day for a couple days. And sometimes it can be trying. Also, for the guest, in this case, Jyrki, they don't know who they're talking to, and they can't see. This was a Zoom call. So when you watch the interview, you'll see me and a picture of Jyrki, and Jyrki will be on the phone from Finland. They're a Finnish band, if you didn't know that. And so it's a little bit of a different style. So you could have questions prepared, but I don't talk very much in this interview, which is, I know, shocking. But Jyrki, you can ask one question, and he will give you 30 minutes of answers, good answers. And I think for most people, he's an interviewer's dream. Most people aren't prepared. You know, some people come in with the same stupid questions. And so anyway, we were on a bit of a time limit, but I think we get to a lot of cool things. His point of being out here promoting is the album, and also that they will be in May here in May in the United States with Pretty Boy Floyd on a short tour, and he wants to spread the word. So again, a little bit different. Usually on this channel, most of the guests are people that I've personally know. I don't know Jyrki personally. Of course, you have to have some kind of channel clout to get people to appear, but this is a different kind of thing. I'm working with a time restriction, and you know, we'll see. Hopefully, you will enjoy this interview. Most people will just put it out and not explain it. I like to preface things because people are used to seeing the guest on the screen next to me, and this is something a little different. I enjoy the 69 Eyes music. I think you guys will too. So we're going to see and listen and hear and all those great things from Jyrki 69 of the 69 Eyes right after this. Just wanna waste some time with you. Sometimes it seems too good to be true. Nobody out there can waste time with you. Yeah, well, thank you for joining me. At first, when I got up this morning, I find I always get up early for Finnish interviews. I had all the original members of Hanoi Rocks on, which
that's great.
Yeah, which resulted in a reunion of sorts. So that was good. So
you're the guy to blame.
I know that's what it's funny because that's what Nasty said. He said, "This is all your fault. I had no intentions of doing this."
Seems like so. Well, thank you, and maybe somebody else might say something else, but cool. That seems interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah, but it's also like there's this thing that I'm a fan of many things by myself, but quite recently, during the last couple of years, probably COVID has something to do with it. But I'm not sure if it's also like fans tend to, and I'm a fan. I tend to hang on to certain memories and think that they are valuable and worth like reminding, let's say the original guys or something like this. And then in the end, none of them has that much brought anything good back, or it's actually a false idea that something will bring the good times back how they were.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little bit like because I've been the one that to there's certain bands that I've been huge fan of, and I since like I saw them back in the 80s or something, and I've been eager to like be part of these communities of reminding them how great they were, and hopefully they will still make some new music or good music or something. But actually, I think that like it's same with the movies, most likely books, like art itself. Like you know, if you capture something, maybe it's not worth even trying to bring that back or bring that emotion or bring that vibe back.
What's interesting?
There's certain like values that you sort of like which are kind of obvious. Like for instance, if there's certain bands whose singers are not involved with the band anymore. So maybe we know that would be fantastic, at least like for one tour or something. They deserve to make music together one more time or something. But I understand the aspect as well that it's probably not that true in the end.
But what's interesting, Jyrki, is that you're in the opposite position. You've kept the same lineup of your band for over 30 years.
Yeah, well, like when we started, like we were looking around what bands could be something like blueprints for us, like whose like example we should follow. Hanoi Rocks was of course one of them, because we came from Helsinki and we knew what happened. Like, I mean, they went to abroad and became legends. So that was like one of the ways to do it, and we did exactly the same things, like they in the same order. Like once they started in Helsinki, their first day, they started to happen in Stockholm, Sweden. Then they started to happen in London, England, and then like later on they went to US. So this was something like we were like really starting to do. We started to play in Sweden, Stockholm, and then we were playing in London. This is in the early 90s already. Like pretty quickly we were like, okay, this is what we should do. And eventually we ended up to the US as well. But that took like 10 years. But the other bands around us, like example bands, were like Ramones back in that time, the Cult, Aerosmith, like the Rolling Stones, of course, like bands who at that point, you have to remember, I'm talking about late 80s, early 90s, they seemed to have like no members were changing, like the key members were there, like and for us, starting a rock band was like something, the coolest thing to do in the 80s as a young rocker, as a young guy, as a music fan, was to put up a band. That was the coolest thing ever. I mean, and that was like also like the perfect, coolest pickup line ever. Yeah,
right.
Like I'm in the band. Do you want to come to see our show? That was originally really. I'm glad to tell that, because that was like one of the reasons. But we just like we started the band. None of us was a particularly great musician, at least me, and we just thought it's cool to be like form a gang, but let's call it a band, and let's try to perform here and there. Maybe if we end up playing some cool places, maybe we can end up getting like in Finland there was a rock club, that the major rock club, which is there, and we actually played there last weekend.
Nice.
But if you played there, you get kind of like VIP card to get in for free to see some shows. So that's enough. Like, let's play show. Maybe we get like get free entrance to see some cool bands, like back at that time. And then maybe later on, maybe we end up playing at the festival, and we end up seeing Motorhead or meeting Glenn Danzig, something like that. And those were like the cool points of starting a band. Nothing else. And then it started to happen. All of a sudden, we have played like 10 years. We played around a little bit, like in Europe, like fans of the band, and then there was actually like because as we started as a glam band, there was like this glam rock kind of glam rock underground scene going on through the 90s. So anybody who was wearing a leopard jacket was part of that club. So obviously and we came from the town where known from Hanoi Rocks and Smack and even Dogsta War started in Helsinki. So we were approved and we were playing around like small fan club shows in like in Sweden and in the UK and Italy, and like that was cool. We were a tiny cult band, and once in a while some like we met some American rocker, and they knew us from the pages of fanzines that all these, like, let's say loser glam bands of the 90s were still like happening, and we were one of that. That was cool. But we didn't want to sound retro. We wanted to sound like contemporary rock and roll, and we were developing our sound. And at some point, we just like came up it was a humor thing to do that I started to sing lower. But then at some point, I started to sing lower, and all of a sudden, like, our music was getting airplay on radio stations, and all this happened, and then this nice sound that we know today was discovered. But it took like 10 years. We were trying everything, and we got excited of all the possible kinds of music that was coming up. Like when like Mötley Crüe album was like really influential for us, like how those guys tuned their guitars, and like we were checking out everything. We wanted to be like a cool modern band of our roots, and still are. I mean, still today, as we play backstage, like Johnny Thunders and New York Dolls, Ramones, that kind of stuff. That's still that's still cool, and that brings more value to it. So our roots are there where they always been, but we always try to become like a big contemporary band, which was kind of impossible, actually. Even I don't know how we really believed in that, like really strongly, because there was no financial support, and obviously like studios, we didn't get like expensive studio time. We didn't get expensive producers. Everything was pretty much like nearly self-financed. But we kept the dream, and now we're actually like seems like again like closer than ever. I mean, I think like somebody always said to me, like we made it like around the time we hit the States, like 2004, 2005. That was the point we like, and before that we already got platinum and gold records in Finland. So somebody said you made it, but still, like there's like the reason why to still keep on going. We sort of like we're at least inside the band we're talking like, so we're gonna probably make it. I don't know what it means, but every new thing is a wonderful like a dream come true, most likely.
Yeah, you've kept the right attitude. You're not a controversial person. You care about your fans. This is the 13th studio album. The band's been together since 1989. I couldn't imagine any other sound now. Obviously, you guys have gotten to what the fans have called goth and roll. And again, 13 studio albums. Death of Darkness comes out April 21st. Physical copies on May 5th. You can pre-order it right now. And you're going to be here in the States. And I want to make sure people know it's been a long time since we're able to get bands over the border, across the pond, as they would say. So starting in May, you'll be on the West Coast for a run with the band Pretty Boy Floyd as well. And it's great to have you guys here. I can tell you that my girlfriend told me you have to have Jyrki on the show. It was the most important thing. She's going to all the California shows. And so I want to make sure that our audience knows, go to the69eyes.com, check it out, make sure you get the new music. Jyrki, when you come to the United States, what are things that you look for? I know you've been coming for a long time. What is it that you like to get here that you can't get anywhere else?
I have a lot of friends and fellow musicians there who've been doing this as long as I have, or we have, and we just it's just simple talk about like our favorite records. Maybe somebody owns somebody's, amp, which I think it's cool or something like that. Like just like sharing the dream of rock and roll. That's the main thing. And obviously for us and for me, as I was 8-year-old guy discovering rock and roll through Elvis, seeing his funeral on TV, it's every time incredible to really come to the US, homeland of Elvis and Ramones, and play rock and roll in the way the 69 Eyes know it, and I think that you guys dig it. So it's always like it's unbelievable that it really happened. It was like it was just a small dream of this 8-year-old kid, and he had the idea that he understands something about rock and roll more than anybody else, and it's the same vibe still. Like when you meet fellow musicians, we probably know something a little bit more than somebody else. I don't know. There's no words about it, but it's like when I saw first time like Lords of the New Church, Steve Bader's on stage. Mm-hmm. I sort of had a vibe that I actually might know something like about that secret that he knows. Or if I saw Lux Interior of Cramps or even Gigi Allen. So actually I just mentioned my live performance influences. So I thought that I know something because that's and what is that something? That's the power of rock and roll. Like there's certain mystery. That's a mystery that Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and James Dean, together only know. But if you can get a glimpse of that, you know how to rock, and then you can, deliver in the way like I do.
Yeah. Do you like to see some of those famous sites? Have you been to Graceland?
Yeah, of course. I've actually been there twice. Even our whole band, the 69 Eyes, were there like a couple of years ago for Easter, which is kind of like a very special time to visit Graceland. And of course, I've seen the major sites. I've been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame probably like 5 times or something like that. I like that, like the way Americans represent their culture. I'm a big fan of American popular culture, and it contains a lot of things. So, but I'm not a collector guy, and I live in the present time. I don't carry on VHS tapes or I respect that culture, but I'm not I sort of like to stay away on the creative side for that scene. But obviously I've been part of and I am still a fan of many things openly, and I support a lot of things, and I like to tell that out also, like in my way. Maybe even mentioning in our songs some movies that I think that might need more, or audience or people should remember that stuff or something like that. But that's what I just learned for instance, from the Cramps. Like when Smell of Female, their live EP came out, there was a song Faster Pussycat. How could I know what it was? I mean, it was a cool song, but I didn't know it was from like a theme song from the
movie.
Faster Pussycat, Kill, Kill, Kill. Yeah, and then I discovered Russ Myers, and that's something of my I'm one of the. I was really big fan of Russ Myers all these years. I think I'm too rediscover that stuff once again. And of course, like my all-time favorite movie is Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that holds inside, whatever there is in that movie, it just has to be seen to understand. But that's one of the best movies ever. But like so I learned a lot of things through my favorite artists, and I tend to continue the same, but in the same vein, and carrying the torch. Or if we are like we've been talking about in interviews of like Johnny Thunders or New York Dolls, or even I mentioned Gigi Allen. So there's some things that I just like. Maybe there's some people who don't know what I'm talking about, and they go to figure out themselves.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Something new.
Yeah, you do that so well. I think some of the bands, Misfits, did it a little bit. Talk about some of the old horror movies,
yes,
and maybe some younger people will be exposed to it. I got to tell you, one of the coolest things to me is you have an album 2 albums back called Universal Monsters. I'm a huge fan. Behind me, I have all kinds of Universal Monsters. What is your favorite Universal monster?
Well, it's lame to say, but obviously it's Dracula,
mm-hmm.
of course.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I don't know. I like them all, and it depends on the moment. And that was just like it's an incredible like big dark book of fairy tales that came out as a movies, and I think that is that whole thing, that is art. And how come those creatures who like they transferred into our modern day culture, just part of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
We don't probably even notice that, how they are everywhere, way or another. And they just become like a household creatures, in for us as a cultural references. So yeah, that is incredible. And think of the beginning of that somebody had to convince somebody like, hey, let's make a movie about the mummy,
mm-hmm.
and or werewolf, and like then there are people are reacting to the movies how they did back then, and then all of a sudden, like now it's gonna be something like soon, like 100 years anniversary for some of them.
Yeah.
And they're just part of our everyday culture. I mean, obviously in rock culture, they're in tattoos and in graphics, but also like they're around. Like they became like kind of like something that everybody knows. No matter if you have, none of us has probably seen all the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. So that was interesting. That interested me back then, and now I'm like, and there's also like things that they come back and go. Like for me, for instance, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
The movie and the music. So I still can. It's sort of like it's fantastic big movie. And it's still, I can't understand how they got it financed, and who
right.
convinced, and how who convinced somebody like, hey, we have to invest and make this big movie out of this
mm-hmm.
script and these songs, and how I don't understand like how that was, like it would be probably really difficult these days to start. Hey, I have this idea of this guy comes by UFO and he's called Frankenfurter, and so on and so on. So it's kind of like it still amazes me.
It's one of the
great aspects.
It's one of the great things about some of those 70s movies, especially horror movies. You try to ask yourself, are they for real? Were they really trying to make a great movie, or do they know that this is slightly ridiculous? And sometimes we'll never know.
But I just think it's pure art,
mm-hmm.
So I'm enthusiastic about those aspects, and generally just popular culture, and the biggest, I would say even mentor for me was Andy Warhol, who was like watching everything from the distance.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't take part of any anything that he was doing, but he was watching everything from the distance, and made it possible that everything what was happening around him was happening, and also captured some of those vibes to his art. So and he was highly commercial as well, but on the other hand, he was creating something totally new. So all these aspects somehow meet up in my vision of the 69 Eyes and what we are trying to do and been doing. I don't think, no, actually, would be stupid to say try to do. We've been doing this fucking 30.
Oh yeah.
Over 30 years, but it's same intention and same enthusiasm and same, like it's more than just like we play 3-chord rock and roll, and we spread our legs when we, like, a little bit more like Johnny Ramone did when we go on stage, and our guitars and basses are like, they're hanging pretty low, so that's very important, of course, those kind of aesthetics. And you have black hair, sunglasses, all that, but like there's something else as well, something what I want to throw in, and if I have a chance to talk about it, it sounds like this what I'm doing right now.
Well, the art shows in the 69 Eyes. You constantly make the music videos. There is an image to the band. There's a sound to the band. There's a style. It's more than just making records, as I said.
It's my live cartoon. It's like I was drawing black and white rock and roll comics when I was a teenager. So sort of like the next level from drawing black and white rock and roll comics is like the 69 Eyes. It's like live cartoon. And it's the same characters doing this and that and going around the world and pretty much looking the same decade after decade.
I've heard you say that quitting isn't an option, and that's in the true vampire fashion, it's going to live forever. It's not. There's no farewell. The 69 Eyes will make a record, and they'll make another record, and you'll tour the world, and you'll keep going, right?
Well, I mean, what else there's left? I mean, at some point, as I've been growing in this, probably 10 years ago, I had some other idea, and the last decade from 2010 to 2020, that was kind of lame. We were caught in this rat race of recording albums and doing the tours, like in the same way like everybody else in the metal scene was doing. Even though I was probably every interview saying like we're not caught in that rat race of repeating that same template. But that just happened and kept the band going. Then, like all of a sudden we were like, especially with this new record, I just got it as a CD last in the end of last week, and I listened to it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is actually a really good album, because it's sort of like what we didn't notice, or I didn't notice, because we were releasing like 5 songs from it straight up as singles.
Right. So
I know those singles, but if you put them to one album and then there's 5 more songs, it's very incredible album, And yeah. It's like it's like other way around, like modern day, like everybody who's making music these days and whose music is in the top of the charts, they release songs, and maybe later on they put a compilation of those songs and call it an album, maybe a couple of bonus tracks here and there. So that's the way the music is done, and and that's what we did. And we released these 5 singles. It wasn't sort of like planned, but it just happened. So it was really fresh to have the new music out every now and then, and still writing new music and new music out, and still writing more new music. And also what it led, it was like I just heard this from our record label, Atomic Fire Records, that our streaming numbers have grown like 2,000%, like right now, and especially who's listening. Like we had like a week ago, with the new single, we hit over 500,000, like 500,000 regular listeners. So who's listening our music? That's like people under 25,
right?
And that's growing. And that was like the record company was like, are you aware of this? And we're like scratching our heads, like, no, not really.
Mhm.
But I mean, then we've been playing shows, and obviously whenever we, return back to life to play more shows, there's always young generation in the front row, like kids who go to their first rock show and dress up.
Yeah.
And that's been going always, and that's of course fantastic. Now there was like people who are singing along all the words, not just choruses, but like the verses. So I have to be really careful that I don't fuck up with them. But that was something new, or that was like some kind of like Depeche Mode kind of vibe. And I'm talking about shows that we played in Finland, which is not very common that people here sing along with the songs. Somewhere else it is. So something's definitely happening, and that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, your music.
One of my ambitions, my main ambition is like we remember what happened to the Ramones. Like the Ramones were long gone. Unfortunately, even majority of the guys were also long gone. All of a sudden, everybody was wearing, Ramones T-shirts.
Yeah.
I think even Homer Simpson was sitting home with the Ramones T-shirt on at some point. So Ramones T-shirts, everybody had them. The band was long gone. The guys were even long gone. They didn't see that. What a pity. That's cool, but at the same time, it's really sad. So now what's the next? What happens next is that the Cramps Goo Goo Mock is featured on Wednesday Netflix TV series.
Yeah.
And then you have your regular like a dance playlist, which has the biggest hits like David Guetta, Bibi Rexha, number one, and then number two is like the Cramps Goo Goo Mock, and it's like, what the hell? It's even impossible. So and those guys are gone. They unfortunately as well. I mean, and Lux didn't see this happen. And so I just hope that I will be there once something similar might happen with the 69 Eyes. So that's actually also like a reason to go on. Really, we're still waiting it to happen. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah, but that sounds a lot like the Ramones. They felt the same way. They said the next one will be the one, and we're not going to stop, but we're going to keep pushing. I like that you have that attitude, that you want to expand your base. You'll be doing these interviews for the next couple of days to make sure people know you're coming to the United States, to know that the new album is available, and this is what it's about. You want to keep building. I know when you get here to America, you're going to see a younger audience than ever before, which is great. People have something to look forward to. Rock and roll music, some stuff has gotten stale, some stuff has gotten boring. I've heard the majority of this new album, Death of Darkness, and it's great. And if you're a fan of this style of music, or you're a fan of the 69 Eyes, you won't be disappointed.
Thank you. And I'm also like, I'm very proud to represent Pretty Boy Floyd. I think that's like think of it, the 69 Eyes and Pretty Boy Floyd on tour 2023. That is something. That's really cool. I mean, I hardly can't wait, and I'm really happy that this is happening. This is cool. I mean, it would have been cool in like 1990 as well, but now it's happening. Finally, it's happening. We've been waiting for something like 30 years this to happen or something, but that's cool.
It's great.
That is rock and roll, and that is and that is fun. People should have good times. People should smile, notice, oh, these bands are touring. Wow, and that should bring smile on everybody's face from the fact that it's fun and it's cool and it's really rock and roll, and you can put your dot belt on and put some eyeliner on and come to rock.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know you got to get going in a minute, but I want to make sure. I wanted to ask you though. A lot of bands can't get over to America. It's incredibly difficult. Is it hard for you guys to book these trips?
Of course, and that's why we are doing now the very short tour, because we are sort of like looking forward to it, but we're sort of like testing how it works these modern times, like after these few years. So That's why it's a short trip, but we are looking forward to return in November.
That's
but
great.
I can tell you that touring is it's not the same. It was stable world 5 years ago. Now it's not stable, but we are also used to that as well. Like anything can happen but we're used to that also, like all of us. But it's a different world a little bit, but the rock and roll is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Death of Darkness available April 21st. Jyrki, I got up this morning. I put on my eyeliner just to sit here in my living room and chat with you. And I thought to myself, yeah, absolutely. I thought maybe it's better that I can't see Jyrki during the day. Maybe it adds to the mystique that I can only hear your voice.
Well, I like to be present in the socials where we're doing photo sessions and making something cool out of our tours. But also like I mentioned already, the Cramps, you didn't know anything about them, to be honest. Same with the Ramones. I mean, you never saw anything what's going on behind the scenes with those, for instance, with those bands. So I like that, and that's how I like to keep it with the 69s. Well, same with the Cult. You don't see, those guys, like what's going on between the shows, So I mean, there should be some rock and roll mystique there as well.
Sure.
And on the other hand, it can be called privacy. Well, that is not my issue. I'm just talking about like the rock and roll mystique, and on the other hand, like the 69 Eyes is an illusion as well. It's an illusion when we come on stage. And, then you are supposed to forget everything else around you and everything of earlier that day and everything waiting for you. We're there and we're going to experience it together with you in the audience.
Yeah, little mystery goes a long way. Jyrki, thank you so much for joining me and keeping rock and roll alive, giving people something to be excited about. I look forward to seeing you here in May.
Yes.
And again, everyone go out and get Death of Darkness. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we got a Rock USA in May 2023, and be there or be square.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Jyrki.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay.